Hi, my name's John and welcome to my Metro 6R4 build. We've taken a Porsche Boxster, cut the top off it, set a Metro shell on top and slapped a Metro 6R4 body kit on it, and that's where we are at the minute. So in this episode I want to end up with this wing onto the front of it, but there's a few hurdles to cross first. Well, I haven't actually been able to do any work on this in about 2 months. Now, there's no sob story behind that. I've just been too busy working on a customer's car and trying to get it finished. But since it's done now, I should be able to spend a couple of weeks in this and make some pretty good progress. But I might give you a look at that customer's car later on. But for now, I really want to get cracking with this because my intention is to try and get it to a couple of shows later on this year. And, that's not going to happen without putting the work in. So I really would like to be doing the roll cage. That is a fundamental thing that I really need to tick off the list, but I don't have the parts for it, so I can't do that just yet. Now, I'm going to have to keep going with what I can do. Now, the front of this is sort of together, but it's not fitted up properly. So as you can see, this isn't lined up. This gap around this wing and headlight is not right. There's no brackets to be able to put the spoiler on the front, so that's going to need addressed. And the gap between this wing and bonnet is quite bad. Now, this is typical of a Metro 6R4. It's tight here and it's very wide in the middle, and on the other side it's actually even worse. But now they're all pretty much like this, but I would like to try and make this a little bit better. So what I'm going to try and do here is to heat the top of the wing and lean on it, try and see if I can push it in, and hopefully when it's cool it'll stay in place, and then try and heat the side of the bonnet and try and pull it out just to try and make it a little bit better. I spent a bit of time messing about with this, and the bonnet was originally sort of caved in and the wing caved out this way, and I was able to straighten them both out a bit, and that allowed me to move the bonnet across, tighten up the gap on the other side, and I've done the same over here, so it's pretty decent. I would say this is probably about as good as a gap is going to get on a Metro 6R4 bonnet, so I'm happy enough. Now, the only thing I don't like about it is the way the bonnet's finished on the inside. It's just a straight piece of fibreglass that's been cut, and all of them that I've seen have been like this, but I've actually ordered a piece of 15mm aluminium angle, and I'm going to bond it to the inside here, and that should hopefully strengthen that up a bit. So with the exception of filling out this hole here, which I'll do off camera, that's the bonnet finished, I think. So now it does need a bit of filler and fiberglass work, but that's something for a later stage. Now, I want to move on to these headlights here and get this whole situation all sitting right. Now, I don't want to drag this out because I have a lot to achieve in this video, or I want to try and achieve a lot in it. So I think the problem here is that the headlight is fouling on the bumper. Now I can only assume that I need to cut a bit out of this bumper to get this to sit right, but I haven't been able to see too many of them up close. So I'm going to cut a bit out of this, see if I can get this bumper sitting upright, bolt this wing and bumper together and trim it out around the headlight here, and see if we can get it sitting a bit better. It's starting to look pretty good here, but I have spent most of the day at it, so it would sort of need to. Now, I'm going to try and explain what's going on here and what I figured out and why it is the way it is. So whenever I was working on it the last time, what I had realised is, and I didn't put this in the video, but this wing here is not the same as the one on the other side. Now, I'd heard and read about this before, about these cars not being symmetrical. So this section here was actually narrower than the one on the other side, and what it meant was that the wheel arch was not in the same place, so the wheel lined up on one side and not on the other side. So what I actually done is, whenever I've lengthened this wing, I've cut it the whole way down here and moved this wing forward, and on this side I've done something different. Okay, so I didn't lengthen it at the bottom. Instead I cut a slice here and I bent this back and I just lengthened the top of it. And so what that means now is that both wheel arches are still in the same place. So hopefully whenever you stand back and look at it, the wheel should be central in the arch. If you measure it from here to the back wheel on both sides, it's the same, and from here to the back wheel is the same. And it's I set the gap here like this and matched it up to the other side. So this headlight here doesn't fit too bad, okay? See, this is not too bad, it's quite nice. On this side, see the way the wing sits back from the bumper. So basically, this wing hasn't been pulled forward, the other one has, and this wing is essentially shorter. So what I'm going to have to do here is to cut this piece off at the end and reposition it further out and attach it back on again. And then I need to do something around the headlights. So what I'm going to do here with this is, I've got a bit of steel and I'm going to take it in this side and I'm going to put it in like so, okay? And then I'm going to take some fiberglass paste, attach it there and there to hold that in place. And then I'm going to take the wing off and then fiberglass to the inside section of the steel, and once it's dry then crack this bit of steel off, and that should give me a nice finished edge on the inside. Well, I'll bring you in here and give you a look at what I've done, and I probably shouldn't do because it's pretty crude looking, but you can see what you think. So basically all I'm trying to do is hold this together so that I can take it apart and fiberglass it from the back. And I decided that I didn't like this bonnet. I thought I was finished with it, but it was showing too much of the headlight. It wasn't right. So I cut a slice in it, pulled it forward, put a bit of fiberglass to hold it. I've put this bit of steel in here. That's going to be my border for the headlight. Bit of fiberglass to hold it in place, a bracket here. Now the reason for this is that whenever you looked here, the headlight came like this, and when you got to the wing it kicked out and it just didn't flow. So I've cut a slice in it here, pushed it back, held it in place, and I say what I'll do is take this all apart, fiberglass from the back, remove all of this fiberglass, pull this bit of steel out, and hopefully I should have a pretty finished piece. And over here I've cut a slice in it and pulled it forward like I said I was going to do, and again this is only to hold it. So I'll put this other headlight in, put this border in, take the wings off it, fiberglass it, and hopefully it'll look a lot better than it does now. Well, I'd have to say I'm pretty pleased with the way this came out. Now it's not gapped like a Rolls Royce, but for a Metro 6R4, from what I've seen, this is about as good as it gets. So basically I was using that steel that was in there as the mould, and I now have a returned edge on that, okay? So once this is painted up, it should look pretty good in there. It's a bit hard to see at the minute. But what I still need to do is to grind this out here and fiberglass this from the front and make that all one piece on the outside and the same on the side. But once that's done, which I'll do off camera, it should pretty much be the front finished. So it is all bolted together, so this is where it's going to sit. Now there is one issue with this front, and I don't really have to tackle this, but I think I want to because it does bother me. Now in here there's a slot and these 4 supports, okay, and this isn't the way it would be in a Metro 6R4. It does have these 4 supports, but there's more detail. It should have a raised lip that goes the whole way along, and again on the top, and it also shouldn't have a square cutout. It should have a rounded I don't know, a rounded cutout, basically a slot with a round on either end of it. So I want to see if I can try and replicate that. Now I think that somebody's obviously cut too much out of this bumper, or else they've cut too much out of the mould they made it from, but either way I want to try and put that detail back in. So I've got this bit of 2x4, and what I'm going to try and do is to shape it up into a mould, okay? I've already put a curve in it, and I've just been using this planer from the middle aisle of Lidl, where you get everything. So what I'm going to do is try and take this down to it actually fits into this slot here, okay? And I'm going to try and put all the detail that I need into this with routers and files and various things. I think it might be quite tricky, but hopefully we'll manage it. And once I've got this done, I'll cut out a bit out of the bumper, slide this in, fiberglass from the back, and then once it's dry, pull the wood out, and hopefully I'll have the right shape. Well, that's this mould pretty much sorted out. So what it ended up doing was I had to take it to a sound system company called Audio Advice, and they were able to router this lip in here for me on their bench router. And then I came back and cut this out with a saw and chisel, and then I filled the whole thing to make it smooth. So it's really ready to put a coat of primer on and paint, and hopefully I can then use this to make the mould. My only other option would have been to buy another bumper that does have this feature in it, but I think from memory it's 400 or 450 quid, so hopefully this is going to do the job. I got that primed and painted, and well, it's not perfect, it's good enough for what I need it to be, and I really only need to concentrate on maybe 40 mil of it here, so this bit down here doesn't really matter. So what I need to do now, my plan is that I'm going to cut this whole section out of the bumper and slide that piece of wood in from the front and then fibreglass it from the back. Well, you can see I've cut the slot out there, and hopefully you can see what I have in mind. So basically I just stuffed this bit of wood through the slot and I've taped it in place. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in from the back. I'm going to put some white gel coat over this black painted section, and then once it starts to go off, I'm going to put some matte and resin over the whole area, okay, and brush it on and roll it out to get all the bubbles out, and let it sit overnight, and hopefully it's going to dry. Now it is quite cold, so hopefully it does dry, but it should do okay. And then my next challenge is going to be to try and get this wooden mould pulled out from the bumper. Now I'm not too worried if the mould gets damaged, because hopefully I won't need it again, but I wouldn't like to damage the bumper, but we'll have to see what happens here. It hardened up okay, so that's the first challenge out of the way. I now need to remove the mould. Now the plan here is that I'm going to drill some holes here where I know that I don't need the material, and stick a punch through it and then try and hammer it out, and hopefully that's going to be enough to release it. But it's kind of like opening a Christmas present here, and you just don't know what you're going to get, so hopefully I'm going to like what I see. But I'll set it up in time lapse here and see how it works out. I'm happy, came out okay. So looking at it now, I really can't see anything wrong with it. I made the decision not to bother putting the feature in it with the rounded ends at the minute, because I probably should have put it in the mould, but I didn't actually think it was going to be this successful, so I've decided that it was just going to cut it out of this. So I need to put a hole saw in here, and then cut a slot in between them and tidy it up. But yeah, it looks pretty good, and the mould actually survived, so if I needed to, I could probably use that again. Well, you can tell me in the comments if you think the juice was worth the squeeze. Now, it certainly was a right bit of work. This, I would say, to make this, I probably got at least a day's labour in this, between making the mould and making the part. And bear in mind, even cutting these holes out took about an hour. And back in the 80s, some guy would have had to make 200 of these, and so he would have had to do this 200 times, and that's 1,000 holes. So I would say by the time he had finished making them, he was pretty sick of it. But listen, I'm pretty happy with it. I could say, if I could make one comment about it, I think the slots are slightly narrower than the original. And I think the reason for that is that whenever I've made this mould, I've made it thinner at this end than it is down at the bottom, and that's so that I could extract it, and it's called a draft angle. I probably could have got away with slightly less, but I don't think anyone's going to notice that, and if you don't tell them, I certainly won't. And I'll give you a look at the inside of the wing here. I forgot, didn't show you this earlier. So that's the return lip that I've got on it here, and once that's painted up, it should look pretty good. Now we need to look at trying to fit these pylons, or pig's ears that they call them, for the spoiler. Well, I decided to voice over this section just because the audio wasn't very good and the car was away before I realised. But basically I'm just saying here that these Hondas have become a bit more collectible, and I believe this one's meant to be particularly rare because of the colour that it is. Now, I would start by saying that this car was particularly clean for a Honda. It didn't really have very much rust, only a bit down in this lower corner here, which most do, and a bit on the inner wheel arch, which was cut out and replaced as well. But yeah, really quite a good car. Now the main problem with this was that somebody had painted it before, and where they had flattened it back to bare metal, it had a crinkling effect underneath the paint, which was spreading. And I think what had happened is they got some sort of moisture in the primer somewhere along the process. But you never really know. But whatever has happened, something had failed on it. So the only option here was to strip the whole car back to bare metal. And now I have to say, whenever I stripped it back, I didn't find any filler anywhere in this car. So I'm not too sure what the story is with. But yeah, really quite a good car all around. So what I did was I epoxy primed it and then 2K primed it and blocked it all down, and then set about painting it. Now it does look like just a plain yellow, but this is actually a pearl yellow, and so that's made up of a white undercoat and several fairly transparent layers of yellow and pearl. And the problem with this is you really need to keep it very clean the whole way through the painting process, right to you finish putting your last coat of lacquer on. And basically, because of the number of coats, it would take you all day painting a car this colour. So I am particularly happy with how it came out. I'd be really quite pleased with it. Now, you can't really see the pearl effect in here, but outside it is quite noticeable. But it turned out pretty well, and I'm pretty happy with it. So that's it done, and on to the next one. Well, I'm pretty sure I've got most of the fiberglass issues sorted out on this car. It's mainly down to bodywork now, a bit of finishing work. But one issue that I do have is these side skirts, and all I've really done here is trim them down from the original, and they're not too bad. Now I do need to straighten this line and drill some holes here and pop rivet these on, but for now I would say they're pretty much in place and fit nicely along the bottom. But one issue that I do have is that they don't meet the wings anymore, and that's because I've moved the wings forward to account for the wheelbase. Now the gap isn't just as bad at the back here because I've angled the wings backwards to meet the doors. But I'm going to have to cut a slice into here somewhere and try and move this forward. Maybe put a bit of steel in it, some screws, again some fiberglass just to hold it, and take it off and fiberglass from the back. Well, let's close the gap up a good bit there. Now I'm still in the process of fiberglassing the outside of this here, so you'll have to excuse that. So the gap's a good bit better. It needs a bit more finishing off. It's probably not my finest bit of work, but it is a bit closer. Now I do need to put a nut and bolt. Well, I do need to bolt this together, but I haven't done that yet. I'm actually going to use some of these, which are called jack nuts. Okay, so basically this is going to go into this fiberglass skirt, and you basically clamp it together. There's a tool to clamp it in, and it's basically like a rivet. So it ends up like this. Okay, so that'll be in the side skirt like that. The only thing is, now I have some better quality ones, these coming, so I don't want to put one in it yet, but that's what I'm going to use to hold it together. Without having an original Metro 6R4 to check, it's hard to work out how these bumpers are held on, and I guess anyone building one now, basically it's up to them how they do it. So what I'm going to do is put some bolts between the wing and the bumper here and here, maybe two on either side, okay? And I'm going to take these brackets that I took off the tub of the Porsche, and they're going to go on here and here, all right? So that's going to secure the bumper at the bottom, and that's probably enough. It's not a very heavy bumper. The problem is that it now needs to have the front spoiler put onto it, which is this here. I think they call these pig's ears, and so it'll have to be bolted on there, all right? And then there's this aerofoil here that bolts to it, and even alone it's pretty heavy, never mind the downforce that it will probably hopefully generate. So I can't imagine the force that would be on the front of this if you were just to rely on the mounts to the bumper. So I want to try and fit something else here to sort of steady it up a bit. So what I'm going to try and do is take a bit of 30mm box section and put it in behind the bumper here, okay, and make a steel plate for behind each pig's ear and try and bolt it on through these mounting points on the front of the Metro, and hopefully that's going to mean that I can then bolt that like a crash structure onto this and then put the bumper on and then bolt the pig's ears on, and that's going to hold the whole assembly together, and that should hopefully strengthen it all up. And I might put an extra brace into the corner of this here, and hopefully it should be pretty sturdy once it's done. Well, that's it bolted on. Now you'll have to excuse the nuts and bolts that I've used because that's all I've got at the minute, and this black residue is just where I've spread some aerosol to mark the hole through it. Okay, so I've got these done by putting a plate in the back of each side. Okay, so I now need to put a bar in between the two, and I'm going to try and use this here. Now the problem here is that this is straight and the back of the bumper is not, so I need to see if I can try and curve this. Now I think if I put it in between these two bits of wood and whack it with this rubber hammer or plastic hammer, I'll move it back and forward. Hopefully I should be able to try and curve it. If this doesn't work, there might be another option, but this would be preferable. But I guess you could say it was pretty successful and didn't really seem to kink it too badly at all, so I'm happy enough. So that's going to fit in here like so and be welded on to those two plates. Okay, now this bar weighs 1 kilogram, and while I'm not really building a lightweight race car here, I don't want to put any unnecessary weight in it. So I don't really know whether this is overkill or not. I guess you could let me know in the comments if you think it is, but I really don't want to be in the situation where I'm driving down the motorway and something fails and the spoiler comes off the front of it, because I think that would lead to a very, very bad day. So I would rather be safe than sorry. So what I'm going to do now is put this, weld these on here, put this bumper onto the car and see if I can get some access in from the back and tack these plates on either side, okay, to the car temporarily, and then take the bumper off and I can see if I can make up some brackets to hold this on. Well, that's that plate welded on. So my next step here is I've put a plate onto the end of the chassis, and so I'm going to offer this bumper up, and then I think I'm going to try and use these two fixing holes actually to try and make some sort of mount that goes between there and this plate. And once I've got that bolted in place, I'll take the bumper off and weld this bracket to the bar. So yeah, I think that's pretty successful looking. Certainly don't think the spoiler's going to fall off anyway. But what I did was I put these angled brackets onto here and welded them on. Okay, and then once I got that done, I was able to get underneath the bumper here and gain access through the vent in the middle, and I've tacked these brackets onto here, and that held that in place. And then once I got that on, I took the bumper off and then was able to put these filleted pieces in here and here. So yeah, it looks pretty decent. I'm not sure what way I'm going to finish it here. I was thinking possibly maybe once I've got it all done, maybe this and like the radiator brackets and stuff, maybe get them galvanized. That might be a nice touch, but yeah, I'd be happy enough. So I think I'll put the bumper on now and try and build up this spoiler. Well, you'd think I obviously checked the bumper was going to fit before I fully welded this, and I did not. So this bit here is actually fouling on the bit of the fiberglass earlier in the video. So I'm going to have to cut this away. I've tried grinding it back, but it's not going to be enough. It'll have to get cut off. Now I did like the way it looked, but that's not the important thing. It's going to have to fit. So I'll put a bit of metal in here and another bit underneath, and that should be job done. And one thing I was thinking about overnight is I do like the way this turned out, because I think it's a bit weaker between here and here. Alright, and what I like about that is that if I manage to hit the front of this, hit these pig's ears that are hanging about a foot out the front of this car, at least this section here should bend here and it won't wreck the front of the car. Hopefully. But I don't plan to hit it anyway. We'll have these pig's ears mounted in place, and I drilled a hole to fix the spoiler at the bottom. So what I did is basically put a straight edge from one side to the other and eyeballed it, and that got me my front hole in place. And then what I did is I made a template, okay, based off the wing of the spoiler, and I used the front hole, put a bolt in it, and that allowed me to drill the adjustable holes for the wing. Okay, so Now, I do see some people, what they do is they drill a small hole in this side and a small hole in this side, and they put a bolt the whole way through it. And the only thing about that is it would share the load between the two skins, okay? So in theory it would be better, but they're actually hollow. And so I think you would just keep on tightening the bolt, and it would just keep on compressing the fiberglass. Listen, it would be fine, and plenty of people have done it and tested it out, and it works fine. But this slot is quite distinctive from an original car, so that's what I wanted anyway. So that's why it's like that. So what you'll actually do is put the bolt through it, and just bolt it through one skin. So that's the way that is. Now, there is only 2 bolts that hold these pig's ears in place, okay? And from what I can gather, that's the way they are, but I don't know, I think it needs a wee bit more, you know. I'm not worried about the bottom because it's going to be in tension, but the top's going to be, or it's going to be in compression, but the top's going to be in tension and trying to pull itself out when the downforce goes on it. So you do see some people put additional fixings here and here, and that would secure it a good bit better. I don't really want to do that because it isn't the way they looked from the factory, so I need to try and find some other solution there. So my initial plan was to use some of those jack nuts, and I was going to put one in here, okay, at the top, in behind this. And I've seen some jack nuts, M8 ones, ordered those, and then I've seen some better ones, and then ordered those, and then I've seen some better ones in stainless, and then I ordered those. And before I knew it, I'd ordered 30 quid's worth of jack nuts, and don't actually think I'm going to use any of them. So the only thing I'm thinking here is I think these are made in 3 pieces. So I think there's one side, another side, and then the back bit I think is a separate piece, and it is going to be fiberglass or bonded into place. So I don't know how secure it all is. Listen, they're probably fine, but I really like to be really sure about things. And so I think what I'm going to do here is actually drill a hole here, a large hole, okay, and a small hole here, and I'm going to get a bit of threaded bar, slightly bigger than this now. I'm going to put it through the big hole and then fish it out through this hole, so there'll only be a little bit of thread poking out from this, okay? And then I'm going to use this big hole to access it and put some epoxy glue on the inside, okay? And that should mean that basically this thread will be glued along the inside there, and I think that should be a lot more secure, and it will have this nut up against the back, so it will be at least as good as the jack nut, and probably a lot better. But I'll wait until these jack nuts come, and then I'll make that decision about what I'm going to do with it. Well, it's starting to come together pretty well here, so you can have a look at it and see what you think. So I would say it definitely doesn't look like a Porsche Boxster anymore. In fact, for a Metro 6R4, it's pretty decent, and it will be hard to pick out because of all the different colours going on around here, but the headlights do fit pretty well, so I'd be fairly happy with it, and the wing looks pretty nice. I went ahead and repaired this from the outside here with matte and resin, and I've done this here as well, okay? So it won't need very much filler work to finish this, and aside from a few jobs like filling this in, and I have a slice down here on the bumper that I cut in an earlier episode, I would say the fiberglass work in this car is about 95% completed. At least that's what I'm going to tell myself, but I'm pretty confident with where we are here. So onto this wing. Now, on the original 200 road cars, this would have been raw aluminium, okay, and it would have had an aluminium gurney flap pop riveted along the back, as if it needed actually more downforce. But anyway, that's the way they were. So I'm going to need to get a longer section of this. This is the bit that I got for inside the bonnet, but that'll hopefully sort that out. Now, in terms of things that I need to finish off on the front of this car, I need to plumb the radiators in, and I also need to get some inner wheel arch liners here. Now, you can buy these for a Metro 6R4, and so the plan is that hopefully I'm going to buy them and they're going to fit straight in, or more or less with a bit of modification. So that's the plan there. In terms of things I need to do maybe for our next video, if I get my roll cage, I'm absolutely going to do that. So that would be the plan there. Failing that, I still have some metal work to do up in this area here. I need to work out what I'm going to do around this filler cap. I have a section here that I cut away that needs boxed in. I still need to make a pillar here for the side. I need to do something between the Metro shell and the Porsche shell to hold the weather strip. Something else I would maybe like to look at is the interior, and I think I'm at the stage where I would like to put the seats in, get a dash in it, sort of half trim out the inside and see what it's going to look like. So I need to make a decision what dash I'm going to use. At the minute, I'm pretty sure I'm going to use the Porsche Boxster dash just because I prefer the look of it. But you can have your say on that if you want. So there you are. If you want, you can come back next time and see what we get up to. See you later.